Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon to all to my doctor. Uh, my name is Muhammad Riz Muhammad. I'm at number AE160001. So our assignment project is about the recycled material classification by using convolutional neural network. For the introduction, for the CNC is a CNN, the tremendous growth of amount of number of the hazard material product of the result for the urbanization and industrialization, being cycling critical from the economic and environment to being for the maintenance of the effective cycle system. So we are using for the some category about the cycle material, the difficult subject to detect the being producing by using the data, and we using the deep learning about to call it the CNN is a type of deep learning network. Is a major step forward to image identification, widely used among the softwaring and all the material. So in our project now, in the image project, we have to make the between the gap, essentially the gap between the classification and the classification is being motivated by the topic we're using for the environment and set other things to make a benefit acknowledgement. So the first step we can do, identify the material that we like. Some be in the can, some use the bottle, so we can use it for the method or using for the CNN. So the most effective machine learning approach to be maximum efficiency be a normal network. So we have combined the just question about using this combine this photo together to make the algorithm to running the make inception model to help to reducing the parameter of using this convolution. So our method, you can use this for the data for mixing all the image together in the project, make investigation working from the Google Drive we're using for the software. So we'll combine all the bottle aluminum such as maybe around the maximum number of the photos like 100 or 260 and 160 together, or the image resolution. So we make a debit for the combine all the NNC for the figuring. So while we are processing the process example, so we collect the data currency. So the current being the data we can be coding it as a result for the photo to combine 10% of the photo. So while being all be combined in one file, so the image will be belong to make the column. So we make it to arrange this one as a tree method. So for one of the three methods, this one we can use in convolution neural network, along with visual geometric graph, and also what the resident neural networking, and the other one we can use it from the photo as you see, if it's a data exhumation. For this one, we can use it for the layering for the photo of each of the parameter for the CNN. For the data, we can just make the for this project make the investigate for the image we already have been used and used for the Google Drive. So the number of the training will be installed for the risking and will be increased for the training data as we see. However, the employee can use the technique to use it for in the future. For the convolution network, is basically it's like kernel network as a filter. So we use it for the filter select window exit to multiply the number of photo from the as a binary number, as we see in the photo. And also for using for the layering of a pooling. So one of them is you can use it for the filter. You make it the size of the as a general using the size for the parameter. At the size the constructing of the by having a special term to use it for the pooling to minimize the number of the increase in the data. So as the result, we can see as we can use it for the result. We say ask for the task from the task one. We use the convolution. So we try to combine all the photo as a residence to analyze to determine the performance of the basic all of them in 130 or some 200 and above from photo. So this one from the basic result. So as we got it, so this one we get it from the photo from the outstanding record from the previous evaluating for the performance CNN. So this one for the step for the connector for the Google Drive as you see. Yes, it's opened. As a simulation, so making the code. So we start for the step 1, making the Google Drive, as we write it the Google from writing the parameter. And then for the second step, we can use it as a creating the train and validation. So for the creating validation, we can use it as a creative validation. We can be stepping for the step by step all of them, and then we make a train for all of them. And then for the step 4, making the contract the VGG. So as we see from the contract for the VGG, making the parameter for the each number of the photo, we can make it layer by layer. As we see the number of all the photo, we give him the specific parameter exactly in the same time. And this one consists together for making this conceptual. For the step 4, processing the input data. As we see from the input data, this one we can make it the processing for the photo, and one of the good parameter of the CNN, if we can track in the photo and give the angle of the photo as a parameter, and making validation very clearly in the same time. And then he just figure out directly and give the small all data in the same time. For the step 6, we start the training process. For the training process is given each of the photo layering step. So one of them is making the etching and get the stop, and then to get all of them in the same parameter at the same time. And this last step is step 4. So we're making the plot of photo. So we try to code as we see from the beginner. So we're making the coding from as we see for the bulb. So we combine it. So he will show us the revolution. How is it the revolution from the beginning until the end? So we make it training for the validation, and we make it very strict in the same time, from the upper photo and the second photo in the same time. So one of this from the task 1. For the task 2, from the task 2, so we're using the same procedure. So we have to train the precision using transfer learning. So we're using the two methods as we say, the pre-training model Altinex and the VGG inspection. So we're using the provide from the data. So we basically already have the data from the beginning. So we try to analyze it from the same procedure, what we connected for the Google Drive. So we return back and simulating. As we see, we try to feed back the data as the same result, but we need to concern about how to be constructed from what we got from the VGG. So for the VGG, I'm making sometime being the using for the convolution, the networking, to making the data, connecting that one tracking for the photo as a small isolation. We have a more complex. So this one make it easily to repeat and the repetition for this first time and the second time. So for all of the same layer. And also for the modeling as sequential, so you're using the function. You use the function as a simulating, and then you make it. You give you the total parameter in the same time. So and also how to use it for the previous data. So he give you the each parameter in the image, and as we see for the use of the binary construction. So you mostly they using it to concrete the overall for the neural network. So to make it easier for us to identify which one of the using for the bottle and the glass and the plastic and the can at the same time. So this one can also have a repetition in the same time. You're using for the small layering in the same time. And also to make the plot, you need to figure out, and then from the last part you need to identify. You use the training and the validation loops. So what you need to why to be using. So we try to why we're using it, and in which figure to be identified, and then we try to get the highest train to get it in the for this the software we're using, like such as Clipper Google. Just want to make it clarify with all of them. Return back for the so how about that we are now about the task tree. So for the task tree, this all the results belong to the task 2. For the task tree, so for the task tree, as we see from the photo, he give you the clear about how to identify the 3 bottle or the 2 can. So we can assume from this project to how this model implemented just this data of the 20 picture regarding from identify the characteristic, and then to build that data be distribution and the object. So we try to use it for this one. It can be used, the bottle can be rubbish, or let's say you can use it for the recycling, and then we use it how to make most combining packaging for the pooling in the same time, to be labeling the purpose for each of them. So this one and also the graph you mentioned about earlier about how to make a training in the same graph in the peak time. So being the how to pick a resolution. So each of the 2 plot from the first one, the second one be very different, because the other can be going back, and the other how is a combination of all the photo together. So and also this one the output of the task for the task 2, the plot. So as we see from the graph, so it started from the beginning and then having float in the middle. So it start being the resolution be increasing and then be stopped in the same time. So the opposite photo, that what you using, that how the one can be identified, how to be identified the validation in the same time. So we have the currency will be totally different from each of them. So as with conclusion, finally we get this assignment project, and we classify the 3 modeling in this project to be demonstrate and the classification problem, affect and solve the transfer of C and N modeling, we should be all able to discover in the future. So being this one this assignment, so give us like more opportunity to try to how in the future we can be detect all the photo. We see which one being cup, which one being can, which one be identified. Is it this mobile, and this one can different be how you can use it for this recycling or unrecycling in the same time. So also we using 3 modeling. There is such as VGG, one of the type modeling is for the deep feature combining modeling, and also to create the modeling for the deep driving transfer, and also to be analyzing to develop a neural network modeling for the future. Furthermore, interaction and how to use the CNN might be increasing classification and accuracy, and be lenient, and be enhance the entities construct, especially for the recyclable material classification, by using bigger data in the future. Thank you for hearing my presentation. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.